And then we have here a wonderful simile. Has growed the great and golden bounteous tree, flowering by Alaknanda's murmuring waves, where with enamored speed the waters run, lisping and babbling to the splendor of morn, and cling with lick laughter round the knees of heaven's daughter, dripping magic rain, pearl bright from moon gold limbs and cloudy hair. So are her dawns like jeweled leaves of light. A very elaborate simile of 7 lines, and then concluding with 8th line, so are her dawns like jeweled leaves of light. Now, such long drawn similes or the extended similes are what are called Homeric similes. Homer, in his Iliad and Odyssey, has long drawn similes like that. He will describe the battlefield, what is going to happen on the battlefield, and then compare with some incidents there. And then here it is, he is coming like that, etc. So such long drawn similes are actually what are called the Homeric simile. So this is a wonderful example of the Homeric simile. Has grown the great and golden bounteous tree, flowering by Alaknanda's murmuring waves. Now, here, perhaps the hint is, of all the rivers and all the places, etc., he is selecting Alaknanda, the river. Alaknanda is the tributary of Ganges. In the lower Himalayas, Alaknanda joins the Ganges. What is called the confluence of the two, Alaknanda coming from the west and Ganges going down that, they join together. And that place is called Deva Prayag. Prayag means confluence, where the two rivers meet. And it is called Deva, means godly confluence of the two rivers coming together. So, perhaps the hint is, geographically the hint is, Ashwapati's palace, Ashwapati's kingdom, Ashwapati's Madura is on the banks of Alaknanda. Because it is so intimate, so close to him. Therefore he is giving the example of Alaknanda. And on the bank of Alaknanda there is a huge big tree flowering up, and Savitri is like that, you see. So this is the suggestion, geographical location of Sri Aurobindo Madura, flowering on the banks of Alaknanda. Where with enamored speed, obviously it is coming in the mountain, so the speed is enamored, rushing, run, lisping and babbling to the splendor of morn, and playing with lyric laughter. Savitri is joyous, happy, lyrical. She has discovered love, and she is laughing and moving on. And of heaven daughter dripping magic rain, as the Apsaras are dripping with rain, the magic rain, pearl bright from moon gold limb and cloudy hair. So that is the description of Savitri. See, two compounds, pearl bright, moon gold, limbs and cloudy hair. So are her dawns like jeweled leaves of light. Now here, I got an example of Homeric simile here. Let me read that passage. Homeric or epic simile is a detailed comparison in the form of a simile. That is many lines in length. Here it is 7 lines already. Many lines in length. Often it occurs at a moment of high action or emotion. It is also true here. High action or emotion. Similes are emotional. Often it occurs at a moment of high action or emotion. Similes are intentional. With a purpose, they are already built into that. Intentional. Deepening and understanding the contents of the subject, basically. They stress the physical motion and the emotional disturbance. That is what a critic says about Homeric simile. They stress the physical motion, well, here is there, and the emotional disturbance at that point of time here. And he used the example of Homer simile as when the shudder of the west wind suddenly rising scatters, shudder of the west wind suddenly rising scatters across the water, and the water darkens beneath it. Under the shudder, the water darkens beneath it. So darkening was settled the ranks of Achaeans and Trojans in the plain. When the two armies are standing against each other, the Greek army and the Trojans on the plain, they're standing here. So he says, and the water darkens beneath it. So darkening was settled the ranks of Achaeans and Trojans in the plain. That is this is of course an English translation, but Homer gives a beautiful long description in the original, of course. And then we have the same thing carried out as a very beautiful example of Homeric simile by Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold, he has a narrative poem or a kind of an episode, Sohrab and Rustum, the Persian heroes. Sohrab and Rustum. And there he describes in the epic manner how the whole scene is. As in the country on a morn in June, when the dew glistens on the pearled ears, a shiver runs through the deep corn of joy. So, when they heard the Peranvaza said, a thrill through all the Tartar squadrons ran of pride and hope of Sohrab, whom they loved. See, this is the part of the simile. And then the description comes here. And then he continues, but as a troop of peddlers from Kabul, you see, that is his spelling, Kabul, in those days. But as a troop of peddlers from Kabul crossed underneath the Indian Caucasus, that vast sky-neighboring mountain of milk snow, snowy mountain, milk snow, crossing so high that as they mount, they pass long flocks of travelling birds dead on the snow. On the snow, the birds have fallen there, dead snow. Choked by the air, and scarce can they themselves slake their parched throats with sugared mulberries. In single file they move and stop their breath, for fear they should dislodge the overhanging snows. So the pale Persians held their breath with fear. So the birds, how they are flying above the mountain peaks, how they have fallen, and how they are lying dead there. So in that manner, this is the whole long simile. From here, from here up to here, in the description of the birds on the snow and all that. And then, so the pale Persians held their breath with fear. So this is an example of the Homeric simile, and it's a very beautiful example in English poetry. And what we have here is also exactly the same thing here. As growed the great and golden bounteous tree, flowering by Alexander's murmuring waves, where with enamored speed the waters run, lisping and babbling to the splendor of morn, and cling with lyric laughter round the knees of heaven's daughters, dripping magic rain, pearl bright from moon gold limbs and cloudy hair. So this whole thing is a simile, all these things. And then, so are her dawns. See, just one line now about Savitri. So we have now a few occasions like that in Savitri, where you see the Homeric similes, long drawn similes like that, you see. And then of course Ashwapati says, so cast she her felicity on men The way Alaknanda's waters run and all that thing, etc. A flame of radiant happiness, she was born. Yes, a flame of radiant happiness. She was born from flame, and she herself is a flame. And surely will that flame set earth alight. Now he says, he makes it absolutely definite. And surely means Ashwapati had the full conviction that Savitri is, although she is going to meet ill fate, something unfortunate, she will be able to win over it. She will be able to conquer that fate. Will that flame set earth alight? Not only conquering, will set earth alight. That is the power of that future. Doom surely will see her pass and say no word. But too often here the careless mother leaves her chosen in the envious hands of fate. The harp of God falls mute. Now that is Ashwapati's concern. Yes, Savitri has come as a flame and she will set everything alight. But very often the envious hands of fate is also there. And the careless mother abandons her child. Discouraged face widows unhappy sound. The strains of the siren ecstasy cry not here. The strains of siren ecstasy. Now that is a very powerful again. The strains of the siren ecstasy. See, it is a harp of God. And the strings are the strings of ecstasy. And the ecstasy of the siren. The sweetness, the musical sweetness of the music of the sirens. Again here, the siren is definitely a reference to what we have in Odyssey. In Odyssey, the sirens, there are 3 sirens. 3 sirens, their names are Terpsichore, Melpomene, and Chirope. These are the 3. Okay, so that doesn't matter. One is a siren of dance, one is of music, one of arts, like that. These 3. And they are very, very sweet singers. Very sweet singers. But there is something dangerous also about them. They are dangerously beautiful. And they become femme fatale. They become femme fatale, you see. A dangerous woman, you see. The description in Odyssey is that when the crew of Odysseus is going through the Siren Islands close by, then he was warned that he will hear very beautiful music. And the music is so attractive that people, the sailor is attracted on the island. And then these ladies, they will enjoy fellow and then finish him off and all that kind of a thing, you see. So this man was still very particular to listen to that music. He said, let me at least hear that music of the sirens, how sweet it is. So he tells his crewmen to tie him on the mast tightly and keep the ears open. And he tells every sailor to put wax in the ears so that they would not hear anything at all, you see. They would not put wax in the ear and then go on. So this man enjoyed the music and then the sail goes off. So that was the trick he had played, you see. So siren, strings of the siren ecstasy. Now, siren ecstasy is again a very powerful, beautiful word. In one place, Sri-Aurobindo defines what is ecstasy in one of his prose writings. Ecstasy is illimitable intensity of participation. Illimitable intensity of participation in an eternal ecstasy founded on the eternal existence. Illimitable intensity of participation in an eternal ecstasy, ecstasy founded on eternal existence. So that is the Satchidanandic trance, advance, in which he is describing. So it is, he says, E capital, ecstasy, cry not there. He speaks of E capital, the highest kind of intensity of joy, and strings of the siren ecstasy. So basically, here again, see the beauty of the whole description. Ecstasy is the main noun here. String, so the ecstasy has strings. It is the strings, you see. Strings of ecstasy. You have got a harp of God, and the strings are the strings of ecstasy, on which the music is played. Means it is, music is played on the strings of joy. Joy is played on the strings of joy. In that sense. The strings of the siren ecstasy. Cry not here. Well, you are here, there, but here in this world, in this mortal world, is not there. That music is not there. Strains of siren ecstasy. So it is the joy on the strings of joy. That is what it means basically. Joy on the strings of joy, happiness, ecstasy, on the strings of ecstasy, which is being played here. There is a very beautiful description in one of the compositions of a Marathi saint, 300 years ago, he had written, Tukaram. I don't know if you heard of his name, Tukaram. He was at the time of Shivaji. He was a very great saint, devotee. And in one of his compositions he says, Ananda che dohi, Ananda che taranga. On the ocean of bliss, the waves of bliss. On the ocean of bliss, the waves of bliss. On the pond of bliss, the waves of bliss. It is that strings of ecstasy, the strings of joy on joy. It is that kind of a thing here. Of sorrow song we have enough. Yes? Well, this is mortal creation. Sorrow songs we have enough. In fact, that is a great commentary on the plight of we mortal creatures. Sorrow songs we have enough. It's a great commentary actually, basically. In fact, this phrase would remind us of the description we have in the Gita. The Gita speaks of this word as anityam asokam. Anityam asokam. Anityam, transient and sorrowful world. This transient and sorrowful world. Anityam asokam. Transient, anityam. Asokam, sukha, joy, which is lacking, sorrow. This transient and sorrowful world. Anityam asokam. That is what the Gita speaks. Here is the same thing. Sorrow songs we have enough. Yes, yes, we know this world is full of transience and sorrow. We have been living that thing. So please don't repeat that. Please tell something else which is different than that. Her glad and griefless days ring heaven here. That is what we want. Let her glad days bring heaven here, ring heaven here. Let them come here. She must come here for that. Although Narada is dropping the hint of sorrow, but enough. We had enough of it. Is it going to be so always, again and again, continuing like that? Or must fire always test the great of soul? Fire must, that's the ordeal. Has Savitri, if she is somebody divine, somebody great, somebody exceptional, has she to undergo the ordeal of fire? Has she meet the fire ordeal? there is fire test. Has she undergone the fire test? Which means that in Sanskrit literature, we have what is called, the phrase is called Agni Pariksha. Agni, that is fire. Pariksha is ordeal. Has Savitri to undergo Agni Pariksha, the fire test? Yes, she has come here with all that thing, etc., etc. Is it necessary that she also should take this test, this ordeal of the fire, Agni Pariksha?